This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Joe Trahan, along with producer extraordinaire Andrew Seeley. And we got more Cowboys to talk with you. The Cowboys absolutely get manhandled by the Ravens, 28-25, the final score. And it felt like that same bad movie, Cowboys fans. You saw it last week. The Saints ran all over the Cowboys, and the Ravens do it this week. But, man, it even felt worse because of the likes of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. You knew they were going to do it, and they did it. And, man, that thing has to hurt. Cowboys are absolutely reeling. Andrew, I know you got a lot put into this show. I know you've spent a lot of time planning it. What you got in store for us?
Well, let's get right into it with What's on the Show.
Here's What's on the Show, sponsored by NFL.
Joe stole my tagline. Cowboys fans have seen this movie too many times over the last few weeks, or at least the last weeks they've seen games played. 28-25 loss to the Ravens, and we saw this coming the entire way. Domination on the run game. We'll break it all down for you, what went right, what went wrong, and also the fight that the Cowboys showed coming down the stretch in this one. Plus, which is more likely? We switch it up a little bit with game week. I've got a series of statements for our panel. We'll have them decide which is more likely. Joe, that's what's on the show. Now, who is on the show?
All right, thanks so much. And I'm looking forward to which is most likely. That'll be fun. Now, for who's on the show, we got a couple of heavyweights. Clarence Hill, he's with DLLS now. He's back again with us. And we've also got the debut of the one and only John Machota. We like to call him Matches. Johnny Matches on the show tonight. He's with The Athletic. So we got tons of talk about the Cowboys. And let's dive right into it. Because, Clarence, listen, the Cowboys knew exactly what was going to hit them. They knew what was coming, and they still couldn't stop it. What does that say about this, especially defense with this Cowboys team this year? What do you think?
Well, I mean, we all knew that they were going to run at the Cowboys, run right at them. That's what the Green Bay Packers did. Certainly that's what the New Orleans Saints did, and we knew that's what Baltimore was going to do with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And it's one thing to know they're going to run at you. It's another thing to not be able to do nothing about it and not be able to stop them. Certainly not be able to stop them in the first half. Then late in the game, you can't stop them. That has to be demoralizing. That is frustrating. You saw DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons arguing on the sideline after the game. They were both talking about lack of accountability and not trusting their teammates and being in one place and guys not doing their jobs. It's a mess on defense, and it's been a mess since the end of the season because the Cowboys lied when they said they were all in. They lied when they said they were going to do something to improve this defense after getting run over by the Packers. They've done nothing. It's the same old show.
I totally agree. John, what'd you think?
It was stunning to me just because of the fact that when you go into a game where you're coming off of running so poorly, you'd think that there would be some type of response. You know, I'm not saying that they were going to shut down the Ravens running game, but you'd see something where you're like, well, this improved here and this improved here. And you didn't see any of it. You can make a case that it might even have been worse. The only thing that was better is that they didn't give up touchdowns on their first 6 possessions like they did against the Saints. And so I'm at the point now where, you leave that locker room and you hear the way that Micah Parsons sounds and DeMarcus Lawrence sounds. And the only thing that I think could potentially get the defense back on track is by playing some bad teams. Because if they keep playing good teams, they're going to keep running on them. So maybe Thursday against the Giants can kind of get them back on track. But there's nothing I saw today that did not make me think that the Steelers will find a way to run on them. The Lions will find a way to run on them. And can you afford to wait to the bye week to fix this thing? And even if you do, will it get fixed? I don't know that anybody really has confidence that that's going to happen.
It was a prove-it game. The Cowboys proved that they're not ready. They proved that defense still has a really long way to go, and they may have proven that they could be a team on the brink. It's interesting. 3 games into a season, I don't know if I've heard players talk the way that Tank Lawrence and Micah Parsons did after that game, calling it peewee football and calling out their teammates the way they did, as directly as they did. Questioning their manhood in some ways. It was really interesting, so I'm going to throw it to our panelists. And, John, I'll start with you this time. I know we kind of mentioned it before, but I kind of want to continue to go down that thread. Do you think this is a team on the brink after just 3 games?
I do, and I think there's levels to all of it. You can be 1-2 and lose some close games to good teams and just be like, hey, just came up short. We got to execute a little bit better in the red zone. Here we go. But when you are getting destroyed, particularly early on in games, and particularly in games in AT&T Stadium where you were so great for 2 years, and it just looks like one continuation after another from that just inexcusable playoff loss to the Packers, I mean, there's reason for serious concern. And if you were to lose on Thursday to the Giants, then it just keeps spiraling out of control. I do think Mike McCarthy is the right guy to kind of steady the ship. I think he has been good in those situations in the past. I mean, that's why his record has been so good after a loss. But they lose Thursday, and this thing could get real ugly.
Chill, what do you think?
That's one reason why we've been patient with Mike McCarthy, because he has been good with a loss. They have been good at home until this year. This is back-to-back losses at home, 3 straight losses at home, back-to-back losses, which they haven't done. And the thing that troubled me, in addition to all the stuff we're talking about with Mike McCarthy, with Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence, number one, Mike McCarthy said that they had poor practices this week. And he said they played like they practiced. How do you practice bad after getting destroyed last week? How do you go out there and put that on the practice field and put that in the game after what you did and how you played against the Saints? And to double down on that, Dak Prescott talked about a lack of professionalism. He didn't say lack of professionalism. He said we need to be professional. So what you're saying, there's been a lack of professionalism. We need to be more professional in how we conduct ourselves, our focus, what we do watching film, not just in practice, but we're away from the facility. This is a direct call out. You look at that offense, they were out of sync. You look at CeeDee Lamb, and I know you're going to get into the CeeDee Lamb situation, but him last week missing the adjustment on the route, saying, well, that's my preseason. Well, you missed preseason. You missed training camp because you're holding out for the money. You got paid, and then you have a route bust that cost you a touchdown. In this game, you have a fumble in the red zone that cost the Cowboys a touchdown. You're seeing fussing at your quarterback and your offensive guard during the game, and you're pouting, and then you don't show up and talk to the media after the game. That's the epitome of lack of professionalism.
Yeah, no, listen, and I do want to touch on that. And we can start with the accountability aspects of it, because it's starting to ring hollow already, because they've talked about accountability time and time again. There was no accountability in that game today on a lot of different levels. All I saw was emotional immaturity. I saw a team that looked really young, which in some instances it is, but there are some veteran leaders who should be able to turn things around. Unfortunately for this Cowboys team, because they didn't do more in free agency, they're paying for it, because it looks like a young team. And I know football is uglier than it's ever been in the NFL in September. But for the Cowboys, it is to another level. Can it be fixed, I guess, is the question I'll throw to you, Chill.
I don't know. I've seen seasons go off the rails. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen, I remarked last week that this has the potential for 5-11 there. Everybody said, well, there's 17 games. We're at 5-11. It's going to be 5-12. The point is the same, okay? I got 5-11 ringing in my head. 5-11, yes. 5-11. 5-11. But I've seen this. I've seen them go from under Wade Phillips. They had a playoff season the year before, won their first playoff game in 100 years, and then he gets fired halfway through the next season because they quit on him. And because there was so much media talk, there's so much things that went sour. Like I said, I've seen things go off the rails. And this season with this schedule, the way things are, the environment you set up, Jerry Jones, making your quarterback and receiver dance for their contracts and dance for their food, your head coach under a one-year deal, your entire coaching staff, defense coordinator coming in on a one-year deal. Nobody really has accountability to anyone. Yes, if they don't right this thing, it could get ugly fast.
No, I agree. And we talked about that a little bit. And Johnny Matches, you're on the record saying you think this could be a season on the brink right now. I do want your take on CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, though, because they don't seem to be clicking, especially early in this season.
Yeah, Joe, I heard you talking earlier about them not going to training, or CD not being at training camp, and how that could have impacted things. And I certainly think that there is something to that. I know that they've talked about working out at Dak's house and throwing in the off season and that, but CD was down in Houston working out on his own a lot while he was going throughout this holdout, and it makes me wonder if they did get enough reps in, because for the quality of player, take their contracts aside, for just the quality of players those two are, they shouldn't be having these issues 3 weeks into the season. I mean, they should be, two of the better 1-2 punches in the entire league, and we're just not seeing that right now. The problem, though, I have with that is it's so tough for me to point at that like that's the main issue, because to me, again, there's levels to this, and that's so far down the line for me is anything on that offense, because the defense is so bad that I can't even look at that stuff right now and start complaining about the running game or the third receiver or an offensive lineman doing this or that. I saw that offense show fight today. They at least came back and they actually made plays on defense. I can't get past it, the way that they've come out in these games and just really given you no chance to win these games unless you have some miraculous comeback. And so I just don't look at Dak and CD as being anywhere near the top of their issues.
No, I think you're right, and Andrew, I want Andrew to pipe in here because, in terms of that defense, I think the defense, and listen, some people are going to say this is going too far. Their play in the first half of the last two games, when they've given up a combined 582 yards in those first halves, right? The last 3 home games, when you count the Packers, the Cowboys have been outscored by 54 points in those first halves. They've almost forfeited the opportunity to win with how bad they've been early on. Your take on the defense, Andrew?
It's funny because I feel like I lived watching a McCarthy team with a great offense and a poor defense for the better part of the last decade. I am a Packers fan, so we dealt with it for the early part of the 2010s through 2016, roughly, right around the time the team started falling off. But even in those moments, because we had a quarterback, we had a wide receiver, back when it was Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, in those situations, the offense had to be perfect, but they usually were. Those were the ways to kind of stem the tide and control the ball and keep moving the chains. If you don't have a run game, especially in this league, which is wildly different from what it's been the last decade or so, which has been a passing up and down the field, adding a run game and that dynamicism and controlling the line of scrimmage on offense is so important in today's game. And without that, you're leaving Dak and CD on an island to a point where they're not going to be able to score 28-plus points to try and stem the tide from what your defense is doing. So on some level, I do think the offense needs to take some accountability in this, because had they managed to sustain some longer drives, maybe the defense would have had a chance to sit there and gather their breath. Because I kind of joked with Joe during the game. It's like during the fourth quarter when they're starting to come back, they held the Ravens to 28 points. It was still technically doable if they had gotten a stop on that last fake. But granted, you can't let it reach that point. And that's part of the issue.
Right. That game, like I said, they forfeited the opportunity to win with just how bad they played early. I saw you wanted to make a point. Chill. What'd you want to say?
I want to say this about the Dak CD thing. Understand this, though. And yes, CD has not played his best football, but he is the only person on offense that the defense is scheming to take away. They're bracketing him. They're doing a lot of things to take him away. And I think that's also part of the issue. And they really don't have any other guys that you have to respect. And sort of they came back, but that's when Ravens were playing a little soft defense and there was scramble mode. But on a down and a down basis, you're not threatened by anybody else on that offense but CD Lamb. So it's frustrating for both of them to get things going, because that's where the defense is targeting their schemes to take away CD.
Listen, so many of the things that the Cowboys were banking on in this season have not worked out. When you think about the decision to not get better along that defensive line through free agency, that hadn't worked out. The Mozzie Smith decision to take him in the draft, that hadn't worked out. The fact that they said it was no big deal if CD Lamb would miss training camp because they were working on his contract, that hadn't worked out. I mean, it's all going the wrong way right now for the Cowboys. A win against the Giants would help, but I wonder if that's just kicking the can down the road.
Band-Aid on a bullet wound at this
point.
Something
like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And you haven't even brought up the running game, the big elephant in the room.
Yes.
When you have Derrick Henry, when you chose not to go after Derrick Henry, and Jerry Jones doubled down after the game by we couldn't afford Derrick Henry. And I like our personnel. John Matola, you were there. You can talk more about it, but it's ridiculous because the denial is at the top. The lack of accountability is at the top. When you don't do nothing to improve this team, you say you're going all in and you do nothing. You turn your nose up. We don't need Derrick Henry. We're going to sign Zeke Elliott and run it back. And you saw the difference between a run game, a team with a running game, a team without a running game tonight.
And then when you don't do anything to help the running game, you get on the radio and say you can't understand why everybody's talking about the run game. Well, you've been talking about the run game ever since you talked about what you're going to do in the first round and how much you like the back from Texas. We didn't start talking about it. That's where it all started. We just said what we all knew. The running game that they have constituted now is not good enough. It's really simple. I mean, they're averaging about 3 yards per carry. Good luck on that. Today, the Ravens averaged 6 yards per carry. That's a running game. That's how the running game gets it done, and that's how the running game wins games. And unfortunately for Cowboys fans, this team is nowhere near that. All right, we're going to take another break. We're getting all hot and bothered here on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, but that's what the Cowboys do. They get us fired up, and I know they get you fired up at home too. All right, we're going to have some fun. It's time to gamify Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. That's coming up next.